with me, with the intelligence community, and he knows he gets information from it. And I won't identify which units. It's a way of paying back Obama, Jeb Bush, and Hillary Clinton to get them out of the race. It's the way the industry, the intelligence system, and the military system works indirectly in order to punish those political leaders and dynasties which think that they can run the republic, namely the Clintons, who were involved in 9/11, let me finish, and the Bushes, Neil, Marvin, Jeb, and the old man, including Bush Jr., because they have destroyed the republic. Now it's time for the military and intelligence units that are loyal to the republic to punish this administration for what they did in Benghazi, for having demoted Petraeus, for having demoted 12 of our Navy Navy men, for having demoted AFRICOM generals, and this is their way to tell Obama you're no longer in charge. And by the way, Hillary, you will not get elected, nor will you, Jeb Bush. And that's my point of view, which I think is well grounded in terms of knowing Seymour Hersh, knowing when he covers up, and knowing where he gets the intelligence. So what I'm saying to you and the public is, we have our own ways in the republic to punish those who've punished the people. And you have to have faith that you, Alex, and the audience have had an impact on many elements of our society which you don't know about. And some of them I don't know about, but there are many who I work with and can criticize because this country allows you to criticize as long as you serve it.
That was my next point. That's my next point. Then I want your take on this, then we'll go back to the bin Laden situation. Sure. We'll have you back for a full hour soon if you can do it. StevePachinik.com, best-selling author, joins us right now, former spy chief, basically, with the State Department. If you pull back from all this, I totally agree with you. I know there's really good camps of people in the Army, in the Navy, in the Marines, across the board. They hate what's happening. I know 2 years ago, General Dempsey, on that Saturday night, went to the White House and said, the military's not going to back an attack to topple Saud, to put al-Qaeda in charge. We're not doing it. So there is, just like Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex, he meant the special interest manipulating it. People always ask and say, well, tyranny couldn't come, our military wouldn't put up with it. Well, that's actually true. Our military has been saying no over and over again. That's why these bureaucrats are so angry with it, is that it's not perfect, but compared to them, it's you know, a whole different world. And you're right. I know for a fact when the FBI or the Justice Department subgroups or state police or federal marshals give us documents that turn out to be accurate every time, that burns the police state, it's because they don't like it. And there is a war going on from every different angle between different stratas, and it is good versus evil. And I mean, I agree with you. All this stuff coming out on Hillary and how she lied about getting shot at in Serbia is the inside system saying no to these dynasties and trying to reform things. So in this fight, I understand we're used as a conduit, because I'm the only person, at least in the past, crazy enough to stick my neck out and do this stuff, to go forward in the future. So what does that signify, and how is the fight from your sources going internally for the future of the Republic?
Well, I'm more optimistic about the future Republic. Number one, without you know, caressing you or lauding you, you and I know we've gone back a long ways when you were very young and very courageous, and you were able to state exactly what I said, and we made the prediction that 14 years from now, after 9/11, some president is going to claim he killed Osama bin Laden, which we knew was nonsense. Secondly, you have to remember, when I walk around and see different people, some people may recognize me, but you know the first thing they ask me about? It's not Tom Clancy, my partner. It's about Alex Jones. And I said, well, how did you know who I am? He said, well, I heard you on Alex Jones. You are everywhere. I go to Europe. You're everywhere. In the Middle East, you're everywhere. So your voice is not just the voice of Alex Jones. It's the voice of truth and a prophet that within his own country has made an impact. Now, let me tell you, the intelligence community is a very rich and wonderful community. It's filled with individuals who feel very strongly about our country, but they can't come out in public and say what they want to, and especially in the military. I can't tell you how important General Martin Dempsey has been to our country in terms of restraining the wars, in terms of focusing, in terms of running our military in a time of uncertainty.
Next question, who's this new guy?
I don't really know him. I can't say anything. He's a commandant of the Marine Corps. I'm a great admirer of the Marine Corps. It's improved over the years. They've become very effective in what we call the human topography. In other words, they've learned about psychology and anthropology, but I really can't comment about any of that. I think it's important that we rotate through the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But there are people who have not worked with us, and that is what you're seeing now. I think Benghazi and I think what happened to Petraeus had a major, major impact on military and intelligence community, and especially a White House that was not very effective or very developed as in the Obama administration. They specifically do not want Jeb Bush anymore. They're tired of Bush. Bush is a liar. He worked with his brother. They're tired of Hillary Clinton. It's more than just her lies. It's the corruption that she's had with Russia, uranium, and with Bill Clinton constantly lying, constantly degrading the republic. And our military and intelligence units will not tolerate that.
Sure. Well, we know the Clintons have been blackmailing with all the files they've got. But you can see that that people in the system are sick of them.
Correct. But, Alex, you cannot... I know it's hard for you, and I understand it very well. That's why I often volunteer to kind of give you and say to the audience, look, take a break, but you have to keep going on. This race is not a short-distance race, and you've done a formidable job over 14 years, but there's going to be more years to come, because whatever we're going to elect, and hopefully it will be the Scott Walkers, the Rand Pauls, the people from the Midwest, the young Christians who come out of something that doesn't have any kind of tainted background and can begin to understand what our country needs. And it needs leadership. It needs to consolidate. It needs to close down our government units. But you're the voice, and that voice is going to attract a lot of dissident behavior, and that's okay.
Well, I'll tell you what it comes down to. I mean, take this military drill. It's just more conditioning, more of an attempt, because I think the country's going to collapse to get ready for that. We never said Jade Helm would be the takeover, but everybody from the governor of Texas to Senator Cruz to Senator Paul to Congressman Louis Gohmert to Chuck Norris, came out and said, I love our military, but I don't trust who's running it. Well, Chuck Norris has got incredible military sources. The Special Forces love him. He hangs out with them all over the world. And I'm not going to say what I've been told and things. We're going to have some news tomorrow on that subject. But it's not just me. I'm just one little iceberg sticking up. Under the surface, what you just said, the military is so awake and knows what's going on. That's why the political elite, these globalists, better get their act together, because what they've got planned for this country, taking it over, setting up a police state, the dog's not going to hunt, Doc.
Well, let me tell you one thing. Number one, the police state can no longer exist, and it's not viable, and I'll tell you why. I live in the South. It is very hard for any policeman on a national level to be able to infiltrate any particular area of the South, because it's very fragmented and it has its loyalty to the local community. I can't emphasize enough how important it is for your listeners to work at the local level with the local police, with the local mayors, the local commissioners. They are far more powerful than the President of the United States, than the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We have military officers who work at the local level. I've got a military officer who works in my area and at the same time is a commissioner. He's not taking over the government. He's learning how to run a civilian government while at the same time being able to service his country, what we call the Patriot. That's what happened in 1776, and that's what I'm beginning to see all over the country. What we need are leaders who have served in our country, who understand where we have to go.
You just said it. Stay there. Do the final segment with us, because that's it. I should just leave Jade Helm alone and let them practice taking over local government, because most of the military is already on our side.
Correct.
And so as they put them in local government, it just means our people are already everywhere. That's what the Barack Obamas don't get, is they're literally setting up their own downfall. We'll be back. Stay with us. To to have the media misrepresenting what you say, what you stand for, what you do, trying to discredit you because they're so scared of what you're talking about. And, I mean, they should be scared. We were the first to have Navy SEAL families on who lost their sons saying that bin Laden raid was fake. Because it was. And I got death threats over that. Very specific ones. And I'm not really scared. It's just at the same time, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, I'm trying to help everybody. I mean, this country's going over the edge here. Somebody's got to restrain the out-of-control bureaucrats and corporate interests that sit overseas half the time and aren't really looking at what they're doing and don't understand how they're eroding America's real power. That's my view on it. And Dr. Pieczenik finishing up on the whole climate in this country. Jade Helm, 10-state operation. Clearly, it's mastering the human domain. It's practicing how to take over locally for civil unrest and this new enemy, the Tea Party or whatever. But the good news is that's only woken the military up. But I think the system should look at all these small towns, people coming out of the woodwork saying no in a traditionally pro-military state like Texas. It's not anti-military. We understand the mission is an overall corrupt mission. I'm not against people who are vets running for office. I think that's great. But I'm talking about the fact that not just the military rejecting where Obama wants them to go, but the people understand that the military is being used for unconstitutional duties and that the feds are very scared of the states' rights movement. Dr. Pieczenik, your take on that?
Well, you're absolutely right. What I begin to see more and more is that more young people are joining the National Guard and are getting involved in the local communities at a very young age, at the 20s, 30s. I even met a young woman who is 23 years old in the state legislature here in Florida, and it's very impressive. So you have grassroots that are coming out from very different groups, whether it's the Christian Missionaries of America, a religious group or political group, or the Tea Party, and that is the essence of our democracy. So I'm not as worried about the police state coming down and our soldiers shooting at Americans. They're not going to do that.
I don't think that's going to happen either. The point is the political class is trying to sell that mission.
Well, the problem is, first of all, remember, you have aggrandized your audience into the millions. You look at Anderson Cooper, an ex-CIA operative who works, on the weekend. He has less than 1 million people. You look at MSNBC, they're dead. You look at Fox, it's basically nothing more than Roger Ailes allowing himself to make more money. And I know Roger, I like him. But nobody takes it seriously. So the reality is, it's you and what the people find on the internet and are able to cross hatch.
Well, take Drudge. I mean, why does the Pentagon and Congress obsess over Drudge all day? I mean, it really shows that the system's a paper tiger.
Well, yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, you have General Dempsey, whose real concerns is how many guys can I send into Djibouti? How many guys can I send into Iraq? How many special forces can I send into, anywhere near Iraq, into Jordan to protect them? I mean, we have serious problems that are being addressed in a serious way, where most of the time they're being asked about sexual harassment in the military by senators.
That's another question. Do 5 more minutes. 60-second break, StevePieczenik.com. Steve Piecinek's our guest. I want to ask you, when we come back in Overdrive, some stations don't carry it, Infowars.com/show. What is the elite doing harassing the military structure at every level? If I was a foreign enemy, this is how I would erode it, with all the political correctness training, all of it. And what's going on with ISIS from the information you have? Final segment, straight ahead, Infowars.com. You understand, selfishly, I'm going to ask some of my own questions here, but you heard the questions I asked as we were going to break. Dr. Pieczenik, go ahead.
The basic bottom line is that the congressmen and senators, particularly the senator from New York, their intent, whether it's willingly or unwillingly, is to degrade our capability in the military. Civilians feel very threatened by the strength of our military. They always have, but our military is much stronger, a lot smarter than these congressmen and senators. Many of our generals have PhDs, masters. I mean, Keith Alexander had 4 masters. General Petraeus had a PhD. So these senators are very low in terms of the intellectual gravitas, where you have commanders who are literally in action. And I've warned our commanders that if they continue to appear before Congress and Senate and go over this nonsensical issue of sexual harassment, where now our own soldiers have to wear high-heeled shoes in order to feel what it feels like to be a woman, that's degrading. But it's really...
By the way, if you're a new listener, they made them wear ruby red slippers.
Correct.
I mean, this is just mental illness.
Well, it's not only mental illness. There should be defiance within the rank, and just throw out the generals or female generals or male generals who insist on